Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on our Q1 demo day here at KingsCrowd. As always, for those who haven't joined before on our demo days, our goal of this quarterly event is really to bring some of the best and brightest founders that we utilize our rating algorithm to help identify. Actually, two of the companies here today are already KingsCrowd Capital-backed companies, which I think is really, really cool and special to be able to share with you all. So today you're going to be hearing from three phenomenal founders, really four phenomenal founders. And much thanks to our sponsor, RAD, and Dutch Mendenhall. And so what we're going to do here to kick it off before we get into our three key pitches of the day, and give you an opportunity to ask questions to them, we're actually going to hop in and speak with our sponsor, RAD. Dutch Mendenhall is a phenomenal guy, Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Money Shackles, which we'll dive in on. He's the president of the Alternative Investment Association. He's a recipient of the Patriot Legacy Award. He's the founder and CEO of RAD Diversified, or RAD America, that has a bunch of really interesting real estate investment products underlying it, all leaning into kind of the crowdfunding and raising capital and democratizing from the broader universe of retail investors. So we're going to hop in and discuss that here today to help you understand more about RAD America, and how they can help you get into the real estate investing game. And then we'll get on to our pitches. So with that, Dutch, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Man, that's like a cool intro, bro. Like we send stuff out to people all the time. You did your homework, man. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I've done my homework and also am a lover of what you built and a user and all of those things. So for those who don't know you, give us a little bit of background about yourself and what RAD America is all about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as a background on myself, like I lived on my own at 16. At 18, I had my first car repossessed. At 24, when first dating my now wife, all these years later, I had another car repossessed, right? How she persevered and recovered through that, I have no idea, right? And over that time, I was able to start building a high income, and then I was able to start building wealth. And I had achieved that into my 30s, and I started looking at life and purpose. And as I began teaching and educating and training people on real estate, what I found all the time is like people just didn't want to do it alone. They didn't want to go alone. And in 2012, when the Jobs Act passed, they actually gave us this beautiful vehicle to partner with people, right? To co-invest, to fractionally invest with people. And so in 2015, we opened our first private equity real estate investment fund. 2016, we opened another one and then another one, right? And, you know, we opened those and closed those out and took care of our investors. And then in 2019, we opened our first RAD REIT, which was, you know, residential REIT. We invested in houses and some different things. And we've gone from $10 a share to $25.04 a share for our investors over the 4.5 years, right, since those doors are open. We're actually probably going to have a new stock price change in the next month, which is very exciting for RAD REIT. And then RAD America came from the pandemic. We started buying farmland because, frankly, I thought it wasn't a bad idea when the pandemic had to own a little bit of farmland. And then I started to dive into it, and stuff I was buying for $3,000 an acre was now worth $9,000, $10,000 an acre. Well, when you start talking 2,000, 3,000 acres, holy cow, we just made a lot of money. And I would say that I'm really good at real estate, but sometimes being a little bit lucky combined with being good is more important. And I started looking at every acre like it was an apartment, and every acre produced income, and every acre could grow, right? The valuation of it. And then, you know, we started looking at other income producing land. Because the thing about land in America, there's such a shortage of land and good land, right? Yeah, you can go find deserts and you can go find some mountainous area, but good land, right, that people want. There's a shortage of it. And so I started looking at, you know, what is land that I have that can produce income? Because if it can produce income, it can pay the taxes. If it can produce income, it can, you know, allow the valuation of the land to grow over the years. And so one of the beautiful vehicles I found was golf courses. I think golf course is an incredible income producing, you know, business on land that if we so chose someday we could develop or turn into something new, right? Nobody likes farmland being developed, but nobody cares if a golf course is developed, right? And I always tell the communities we're in, like, if you never want this land developed, then golf and spend a lot of money here, and then it'll always be producing great income. And so that's gone from $10 a share in 2023. And then it went to 11, and then to 12, then to 12.97 a share on our last quarterly change a few weeks ago. And so, you know, we have these vehicles. and it's all about investing with people. You know, it's funny, my students a long time ago said, Dutch, put your money where your mouth is. Like, don't be full of crap and say, you know, here's how you do real estate. Like, do it with us. And, you know, what started off was, I was actually talking about that picture earlier, one of the first, you know, inner circle retreats with six investors, 6 students, right? Now we have hundreds and hundreds of inner circle members. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of investors over the years, and we're just continuing to grow. And you know, we have these amazing founders coming on today, and you know, like, they're working their butts off to raise capital, working their butts off to build a business, and I respect that. I wrote a whole book about it in Money Shackles, right? And today, as these founders dive in, it's like, what is their risk bucket? Are they high risk? Are they low risk, right? What's the DNA of their founder, right? Or is it a unicorn, right? Something that's never existed before, you know, that we have to magically make appear from the air, right? Do they have financials? Do they have P&Ls? Are they a real business, or are they just an idea, right? These are all things, you know, that are in Money Shackles that we take people through step by step. And so, you know, for me, it was a book that I wrote based on what I've been able to build in life, but what I think every investor needs. It's like a resource tool book for every investor to make decisions, and to create some discipline, because investing takes discipline. Doing it right takes discipline. Doing it right isn't just because I get excited about an investment doesn't mean I should make the investment. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, right? And just because I love an investment, just because an investment pays me money, doesn't mean I should put all my money into that investment, right? You should be diversified. You got to be balanced. There's an education to this, and in America, the difference between accredited and non-accredited is the single worst classification of Americans we have in today's society. And frankly, an educated investor is what we need to look at. How do investors become educated, become healthy with their money relationship, so they make good decisions? Because if they just wait for a financial advisor who's never been wealthy to invest their money, they wouldn't be on this call today with us.
That's right. Well, one of the reasons why I love having folks like you on is, hey, everyone on this call today is very, very likely already a startup investor and enjoys
Yeah.
investing in the startup asset class. But putting all your eggs in the startup asset class is certainly not the way to go. And diversifying across multiple different asset classes, which I do myself, is really, really important. And real estate is one of those things that is much less risky in terms of risk-adjusted returns. And so I think it's a really good place to think about diversifying into. You guys have $250 million in assets under management. You have hundreds of single-family homes in the United States, and now investing in farmland and golf courses as well. For folks who are interested in, you know, investing and getting involved and having exposure to the real estate asset class, where can they go? What can they do?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to dutchmendenhall.com, right? It's a great place for them to start. You know, we can provide a link to you guys. I know that we have a subheading. So if they've hit / and then SIG and sign, right, -up, right, they can actually go in there and they can look at all our decks. And they can take a look at the decks and be able to get familiar with, like, who wants to pay taxes when they sell a stock? Nobody. Who wants to pay taxes when they sell a piece of real estate? Nobody. So that's why we started our Opportunity Zone Real Estate Investment Fund. And so people can defer their capital gains for many years, right? And eventually, you know, maybe not have to pay those taxes that they make while it's in an Opportunity Zone fund, right? And so we have various vehicles, because like when I first started, it was just like, I'm a founder. How do I get some money to do my first real estate deal and my first private equity fund, right? Now we've gone through this maturing, right? When you talk about thousands and thousands and thousands of investors, there becomes these other vehicles we start to stack on based on investors' needs. Investors come into us, right? I had a gentleman yesterday who's a doctor, and he's invested, you know, over $1 million with us. And I'll be crystal clear. I don't care whether someone invests $10,000 or $1 million. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power. My team's going to battle their butts off to take care of them. But he's like, Dutch, I have a company that's selling for $60 million and I don't want to pay $30 million in taxes, right? And I'm like, well, there's ways to do that correctly, right? There's intelligent ways to be able to do that. And if you keep your stock, and there's ways to borrow, you know, against that stock, if you decide to invest it into rollover vehicles in different ways. You know, tax shelters are a real thing that we talk about in Money Shackles that aren't this, you know, thing overseas where you're trying to hide money. No, there's legalized tax shelters that your accountant should be able to directly share, right, with the government, so that you can pay less in taxes and keep your money to make more investments. And that's what the whole Money Shackles books is, this circle of life when it comes to money, right? There's your lifestyle. And if your taxes go down, well, guess what? You have more money to invest. And the day your investments, right, make you more money than it costs you to live, you have freedom. And that's the whole process. Is the freedom trap that happens in America is we make more money, we spend more money, we never get free. We get more in debt, we get a higher lifestyle. But go ahead, brother. You get
Yeah,
me,
no,
get me
just
going.
one question that's come from the crowd, is there an ability to get liquidity and distributions along the way? Like once I invest in your fund, how do I get distribution and liquidity?
Yeah, so we have a couple protections in place, right? One is, for us, our investments in real estate are always long-term investing, right? Since we're doing all this, I'm like, all investments have risk. So just to be clear, right? It doesn't matter if it's real estate, and I put real estate in a lower risk bucket than a business investment, in my opinion, right? But I also invest in businesses because it's the only way you can get a 10x or 100x return, right? And so for me, all investments have risk, and we do have more liquidity as a business than a normal Regulation A capital or a Regulation D capital raising, where they lock people in a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? We have a 6-month lockup, right? And so it's a little bit different than others. We also have protections in place. And so let's say tomorrow we have a 2008 crash. Well, we have a ability to do a redemption freeze so that we don't have to sell assets in a fire sale, and then people would lose their liquidity. So every REIT in America has to have these protections in place. If they don't, they're lunatics, right? So BlackRock is a company that has those protections in place. And so for us, we have these liquidity every 6 months. In 2020, we did a 5% distribution. In 2021, I believe we did another 5%. And then in 2022, we did a 13% distribution to our investors through RAD Diversified. RAD America is a newer vehicle, right? That we opened in 2023. And so for us, I think for us, the biggest thing is read your offering circulars, get to know us, ask us questions. Our team will do everything in their power to answer for you and help you figure out, the vehicle you choose, to make an investment with us, right? And so, we have our liquidity, we have our redemption policies for people. And there's a reason we have those, is because we want to make sure that, our investors know, like, hey, we're in this for them. We're battling, fighting every single day. And I have these amazing acquisition guys all over the country that have been with me for many, many years. And they're about as good as I get. I think, when you buy a property 15, 20%, 30% off market, when you buy a property that's going to appreciate at, 7.5% versus 4%, makes all the difference in the world. It makes a huge difference. And so I know I'm hitting up against the clock, but yeah, so we do have liquidity available for people, right? Who do redemptions processes currently in RAD America, right? And so, that for me is, the vehicle that's running, super fast right now for people is RAD America. So
Terrific. Well, thank you very, very much, Dutch. I'm excited to have you sticking around here, and we'll chat a little bit more at the end. So now we are going to turn it over and have our first pitch of the day, which is TriAgenics, which is led by Leigh Colby. And just before we hop on there, just want to let all of you know, I did drop the link to DutchMendenhall.com, which will give you access to find all of the different funds and things you can invest in with RAD. So Dutch, thank you again for a wonderful conversation. And now let's kick it on over to Leigh.
Gonna meet me. Yeah, Leigh, I'm looking forward to hearing it, man. Thanks for having me, let me sponsor Chris, and we'll take it from here.
Terrific.
All right, can you hear me? All right,
Yep.
Let me share my screen. I'm going to talk about something that almost everybody in our audience can relate to, and that's wisdom teeth. Just about everybody is affected adversely by wisdom teeth. It's amazing. The dental insurance data is overwhelming. By age 25, 50% of all young adults will have their wisdom teeth removed. It's an amazing statistic. 85% of us will have all 4 wisdom teeth removed at some point in our life. It's the most common surgery performed in the US. 5 million patients have over 10 million wisdom teeth removed every year at a cost of $3 billion. The problem isn't the removal, it's the recovery. Patients require over 2 weeks to get completely recover from the pain, the dry sockets, the infections. And the post-op pain is terrible. Patients on average miss 3 days of work or school. 10% require unplanned, unscheduled treatment for antibiotics, opioid medications, and so on to manage the severe pain that follows. Our treatment is revolutionary. we've developed 03 TBA. It's a 1-minute treatment that prevents wisdom teeth from ever forming. We have a lot of dentists very interested in this. The 03 TBA procedure is very simple. If you follow my cursor, the dentist seats this 3 TBA guide, seats on the patient's teeth, just like a surgical guide. The dentist then inserts a disposable single patient use microablation probe. When it comes to a stop on the seat, the dentist then activates the microwave generator, and it gently warms the tooth bud from the center outwards. Now, it appears really simple. We can train dentists in less than an hour, but the procedure is really high precision. When the probe is inserted into the center of the tooth bud, it gently warms from the center outwards, and it kills only the tooth bud itself. It does not disrupt any other tissue. So it's a minimally invasive procedure. It's a small puncture. There's no cutting of the gum tissue, no bone removal. It's so precise that we have 100% success in all our animal trials. I personally performed this on 200 live animals. It works every time. It's designed for children aged 6 to 12. And the key benefits, the kids can immediately go out and play. There is no recovery time after this. There's minimal risk of infection, and there's absolutely zero potential for the painful dry socket to occur. Dentists are investing in TriAgenics, and the reason they are, 80% of wisdom teeth are referred out of a GP's office to expensive oral surgeons. Dentists don't like to be referred out. Patients don't want to be referred out. So the key disruptors in our industry will be when general dentists and pediatric dentists perform the 03 treatment in their office. They will capture the income. And the main reason dentists are excited, though, is that they know this is far better patient care. The market potential is really quite astounding. We're estimating the total serviceable market to be $2.5 billion. There's 4 to 5 million 9-year-olds a year, let alone the number of 6 to 12-year-old patients. That is our entire market range. Our financial expectations are that by FY 2028, 5 years after introduction, we will have addressed 6% of the total serviceable market and have over 150 million in revenues. We think we can do better than that, but this is what our minimum financial expectations are. We're implementing a proven business model. We're mimicking the clear braces market. We're in the same first mover position that Align Technology was when they introduced the Invisalign clear braces. We have a lock on the market, just like Align Technology did. Dentists will pay $350 per tooth bud. That's our business model. Dentists are then capable of capturing this treatment rather than referring out to oral surgery specialists. Our traction and accomplishments are really clear. We've finished product development. You can see here our microablation generator. We're submitting for 510(k) approval in July this year. We're just weeks away from finishing our application. We expect FDA clearance by the end of the year. We expect first sales early 2024. Because of our strong IP position, where we have 27 US and international patents, we own the North American market outright. We just received our first European patents. We are really excited. We expect no competition until 2035, just because of our IP position. I'd like to talk for just a second about my investments in TriAgenics. I personally invested over $1 million of my own capital, pre-incorporation, to develop the core technology. file first patent applications, and conduct initial animal studies. We have not relied on a single penny of any form of federal grant or state level support. Upon incorporating TriAgenics, I invested $250,000 at $1 a share. And recently I invested $100,000 at $3 a share in our stock offering on Start Engine. And we invite you to invest before we close out our stock offering later this summer. Questions?
That was great. Thank you so much, Leigh. Leah or Teddy, would you like to ask a question to Leigh?
Yes, Leigh, thank you so much for your presentation. We're very excited about the potential of your company. And as many investors, even if you're pre-FDA clearance, we're already thinking about commercialization, right? So could you kind of tell us what are going to be the steps and the timeline for you to be able to commercialize your product?
Well, once we get FDA clearance, the most important decision we're going to make is hire an experienced go-to-market CEO. I know that sounds unusual to plan on replacing myself, but that is the plan. And I've been involved with 2 prior high-tech startups, both cases. After we developed the product, we hired our go-to-market CEO. Worked great. Our goal is to hire somebody with a lot of dental industry experience. We know who we want to hire, and they will then do the rollout, manage the marketing. We're already scaling our manufacturing. So our biggest concern is being able to meet the demand. We have a lot of dentists interested in what we're doing. I have a large dental service organization that wants us to come in and start training. So we already have our first year of business lined up. That's our rollout.
Oh, Leah, I think you're muted.
Amazing. I'd like also to take the question in the chat if we have time, Chris.
Yeah, let's do it.
Robert is asking, would it be 1 tooth bed per mouth or 1 upper and 1 lower?
Patients, everybody forms 4 wisdom teeth. So it'd be 2 on the lower arch, 2 on the upper arch. And I've got the surgical guide right here so you can see what our product is. And if you look close, you can see 2 different ports there. So, and then you seat it on the patient's teeth. And this would be to treat 2 teeth on 1 arch. You seat the surgical guide, then you seat the disposable handpiece. 99% of the patients will have 2 tooth buds on each arch.
Terrific. Leigh, thank you so much. And next up, we have Caroline from Overplay.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. One moment, please.
As Caroline's getting that up and running, I just want to let everyone know in the crowd, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A. And even if we don't get them live, the founders can still kind of try and answer your questions after via kind of typing it out. So feel free to drop your questions as they go through their pitches.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm one of the founders of Overplay. Dan Perjansky is my other founder who's not here with us today. And we have a quote on our very first slide here. Overplay may very well be the future of gaming, which is said by our one of our investors, Village Global. And so what is Overplay? So we all love watching videos and we all love playing games. So there's over 1 billion hours of video watched on social media daily. Almost 70% of all consumers find short form videos most engaging of social media content. So short form videos, meaning like TikTok style videos. 2 out of 3 Americans play at least 1 hour of video games every day. So that's huge. And 90% of people say they play games because games bring joy. And so what is Overplay? Overplay is what's next for social media. Now, everyone can turn their videos into games in minutes with no code. So Overplay is a no-code solution for turning any video into a game. Imagine that it's like TikTok for gaming. So this could work for anyone, you and me, but it also could work for brands. It could work for anyone who's on social media. And so let me show you what Overplay is. So Overplay, like I mentioned, is kind of like, it's like TikTok for gaming. So we're talking about snackable games that can be played in minutes by tapping, swiping, rolling, kind of like a driving motion, a pitch motion. Whatever it is that your cell phone, whatever input your cell phone can take, can now be turned into a game. And you could literally turn your videos into games in minutes using no code. And that's a patented solution that we have. So we were featured on Shark Tank a couple of weeks ago, my co-founder and I, and Mark Cuban invested in us. And so here's a little clip of that.
Guys, if it works like insane, right? You know me, I like to geek out with the good stuff. Overplay's the good stuff, so check it out.
Okay. So yeah, Overplay is the good stuff. So we were also that kind of final scene where Mark says Overplay is the good stuff. I like to geek out with the good stuff. We were actually finalists for the South by Southwest Innovations Awards, and Mark Cuban actually drove down from Dallas to Austin to come and see us. So we are revolutionizing a $574 billion digital media landscape. We're kind of right in the center of social media, video advertising, and casual gaming, which is all the hottest sectors right now in media. And as I mentioned, because we're entirely patented, we're doing something new that no one has done before. TikTok can't do this. YouTube can't do this. We actually have the patents around all of this. So you could read this in our deck that's located all the way on the bottom of our WeFunder page. But right now, this is where we are. The second part, Q2, Q3 of 2024. We're in the middle of partnership integration. We have our beta launched a few weeks ago. Prior to Shark Tank, we have a number of patents secured. We're integrating AI, which will serve as a creative assistant to you in being able to make games. And then we're also integrating Adobe. The Adobe Fund for Design is invested in us, and we are actually integrating into the Adobe Express platform with Overplay. And yeah, we have a lot of other things in the works here. I know we don't have time to talk about it today, but definitely happy to answer questions about that or talk about it a little bit later. We're currently raising a $1.5 million bridge, and we already have $600,000 already committed. And what are we going to do with this money? Well, we have partnership integration. So all of the folks listed on here are folks that we're either we're speaking with, we're almost signed with, or ready to announce with. And we're going to be integrating their content into our platform. We also have key hires that we want to bring in. And another thing that we're doing too is that while Overplay right now is only available on the Overplay app on both iOS and Android, we are actually wrapping our technology into an API that then could be integrated onto other apps and websites. So an example of that would be NBA.com can now make playable highlights reels of all the games that happened yesterday. They can make playable highlights reels, game playable highlights reels available on NBA.com using Overplay's technology. So another thing that we're going to be doing too is doing really cool stuff in AI. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So this is what a regular Overplay looks like. It's a video that was transformed into a game. And here's what it would look like with AI. So if you want to put him underwater or in a relevant and awesome game for your audience. And okay. And so right now we already have over 200,000 app downloads, and this is just within the past few weeks. Over 1.3 million games played and over 3.2 million minutes of games played. If you were to compare an interactive overplay compared to just a regular YouTube video, that's the same exact content, except one is gamified and one is not. You have 23 times more interaction with an overplay than a regular YouTube video. You have 70 seconds played per setting, and then you also have people playing the same game over and over again. And we found that there's at least 2.3 times games played per sitting, and that's the same exact game that people are playing just to get the high score. We're already backed by some huge guys. Of course, I mentioned Mark Cuban, but also Village Global invested in us, and their LPs include Reid Hoffman, Bob Iger, the founder of Roblox, the former CEO of YouTube, Mark Zuckerberg. And so those are the LPs from Village Global who invested in us. But then we also have these other investors who came in. So we have a combination of VCs, angels, and then also we're doing equity crowdfunding at the same time. We're a team of seasoned and award-winning creators. My co-founder, Dan, and I actually met at Sesame Street. I used to run digital media business development at Sesame, and Dan ran interactive production. We made a lot of cool stuff for kids. I'm also a former investment banker. I have my MBA from Wharton. And we have a number of really great folks on our team with a huge amount of startup and gaming experience. The potential audience is huge. It's a global audience, and so there's billions of potential overplayers. And so folks who are already playing games, creating content, and also using social media. Our business model on our own app, it will be advertising. All of our ads will be playable games. So imagine just like TikTok, you're scrolling through all these awesome games, but some of the games are also going to be ads, and you might not even realize that it's an ad. It's a lot of fun. We're rolling that out later on this year. And then our other big business model, which we really feel will be the cash cow, is the API. So anyone who's creating content, Formula One, the NBA, the Olympics, now they can turn their videos into games. And so it's really tapping into something brand new. And it's not just, I know I'm mentioning a lot of sports here, but it's not just sports. It could be literally anyone who's making a cooking video that could now be made into a cooking game, or it could be a beauty influencer who can now make a game. And so we don't have direct competitors because no one is actually doing what we're doing yet, but I just wanted to show you here a few of the exits that comparable companies like Overplay, like that fall into the gaming social media world, they've had some huge exits over the past few years. And we're thinking of the same thing. We're thinking the same thing is going to happen with Overplay. And so, yeah, we're currently on WeFunder. You can check us out at overplay.com, and then we're also on WeFunder, but on overplay.com, it leads you directly to our WeFunder. And so if anyone has any questions.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Caroline. Leah, Teddy, do you have any questions for Caroline?
Yes, your technology is very impressive, and it seems that you already have great traction. I'd like to focus a little bit on the partnerships. You have partnership with Adobe, Shutterstock. Can you tell us how is your product actually going to be integrated into this company's product, and how can that help you generate revenues?
Absolutely. So for Adobe, for instance, as I mentioned, we're partially funded by, we got a little bit of funding from the Adobe Fund for Design, and that's been great. So Adobe just released a new product called Adobe Express, and it's their competitor to Canva. So, and I don't know how many folks on the call have ever used Canva before, but now, but Adobe Express now allows you to easily edit videos. You don't have to be a professional. This is not part of the professional suite. And you could do this for free on Adobe Express. So Overplay is actually integrating by having an add-on onto Adobe Express. And you'll see that as you launch Adobe Express, you'll see it on the lower left-hand side, Overplay will be there. And that will cause millions of people now who use Adobe Express to discover Overplay. So when people edit their videos, it'll go directly into Overplay where they can gamify it. And so we're going to be doing lots of, and this is, by the way, so this is kind of like, you're the first to hear it all. We're going to be announcing that we're integrating into Adobe Express. This is happening next week. And so you'll be able to check that out next week. We're going to make a big announcement about it. But now we're going to have millions of people coming to Overplay. And because of that, we're going to reach this critical mass where we're now going to be able to roll out advertisements and things like that. So, with the advertising model, it's all about achieving critical mass on your own app. But then other things too, like as I mentioned, Shutterstock. They own Giphy now. They bought Giphy from Google last year. They're also the owner of the largest licensed video portfolio that exists out there. The largest sound effects portfolio, the loudest licensed music portfolio. And so, as you can imagine, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Shutterstock. I can't announce yet, but so we're going to have access to all sorts of amazing content. They're going to have access to our technology. We're going to be getting out there in some huge ways. Also going to make another couple big announcements with some big content owners who are now going to be able to gamify their content and put it onto Overplay. And these are going to be like the ESPNs of the world. And so it's going to be really great what we're going to see with Overplay over the next couple of weeks. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. That was
Thank you.
wonderful. And now we're going to head on over to Pirouette Medical with Conor Cullinane. And then we will have a panel discussion on all three. Conor, you're up.
All righty. Thanks for having me. And good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. And thanks to the KingsCrowd team for inviting me to present. I'm going to start today by sharing my screen, and then I think a little bit of a backstory, which would be helpful. I grew up in southern New Hampshire, about an hour north of Boston, and I was one of 6 kids. And one of my brothers actually had severe allergies, carried an EpiPen when I was a child. And so I got to see up close and personal what it looked like to be asked to carry that device with you wherever you go. And also felt that fear and anxiety associated with potentially having to use that device. So most folks are probably familiar with the EpiPen, and that's what I have here in my hand. And as I kind of continued on through my career in engineering and then medical engineering and medical physics, that sort of always stayed in the back of my mind. And ultimately, as I finished my PhD, I happened to come across an article about a child who was exposed to an allergen, didn't receive a life-saving dose of epinephrine in time, and unfortunately passed away. And immediately I recalled my brother who needed that device. And I thought to myself, the technology must have changed. Why is this happening? And I looked at it, and, the technology was still exactly the same. The EpiPen looks and operates the same way it did back when I was a child. And, kind of giving you a high-level understanding of injectable medication in general. Back in the 70s is when the auto injector was invented, and it was really based on a syringe, right? So this is a standard syringe that's used to inject injectable medication. And what you can see right away is that these have about the same form factor, right? They're tall, pen-shaped devices, and that's because the auto injectors of today are basically plastic wrapped around a syringe to try and automate that process. But the real intention is to make that process simple and easy to do for a lay individual. But that just hasn't been the case. Typically, what we see are individuals that will go to use an auto injector. They'll remove the safety cover on the back of the device. They'll think, okay, just like a pen, the business or pointy end is under there. They'll swing and they'll stab, and they'll actually get a needle into their thumb. The other big issue is when they'll swing and stab and drag that needle along the injection site, causing a big laceration, which is really scary. We ran a study with one of our advisors who's a board certified allergist and showed that 14% of patients literally will not even attempt an injection with an EpiPen. And then out of the individuals that are actually attempting injections, it was basically a flip of a coin whether or not that injection was performed correctly, which is really scary when you're talking about a life-saving auto injector in the face of exposure to an allergen where that patient can actually pass away within 5 minutes. And so we started with a blank slate, and we said, let's not iterate on kind of a dinosaur technology and try and make it, you know, slightly better. We thought, let's start with that blank whiteboard. We love to use whiteboards, and build something that would be intuitively simple to use for patients, and then ultimately innovate the internal mechanisms to allow us to do that. And so what we've developed is a low profile disc-shaped device. If I slide here to the next slide, you can see a picture of it there, but I think it's really helpful to see it relative to something so that you can get a good idea of size. So this is a sort of standard cell phone, and this is the device. It's very compact. We really thought a lot about portability so that you can have that technology with you wherever you go, but then ultimately significant focus on usability and affordability. We always think about a better device at an affordable price, and then just kind of giving you the relative size of these devices. Here is I have to pull back so you can see the full EpiPen size. We're basically within kind of the orange tip of the EpiPen, and then you know, relative to kind of a standard syringe. So you can see the form factor, which lends itself to, again, that portability, and then ultimately usability. And the best way to demonstrate the usability, you know, we talked about what can go wrong with a pen-shaped injector. The best way to show that is to actually demonstrate an injection. Now, this is a demo device, so we didn't include an injection needle, but it has every other component, and it's fully functioning. So I can actually demonstrate what that injection would look like. For emergency injections like epinephrine, it can be any intramuscular location. Today, I'm going to demonstrate that on my shoulder so that you can see it here on the camera. But it's very, very intuitive process. It's remove the safety cover, place it on the injection site, push down. We always think about as simple as pushing a button. So you remove that safety cover. At this point, it actually exposes a medical grade adhesive. You place it on the injection site, and the device actually holds itself on location. It's a very simple, streamlined process. Basically, all you do at this point is push down. You probably heard the click. At that point, patients can hear the click, they'll feel the vibration, and they know that the injection has commenced. And literally all you do after that is let go. And one of the things that you'll notice is that after performing the injection, the device actually popped up to about twice its original height. It fully locked out, and you get a bunch of indications that the device has been used. I don't know if I can get it to focus perfectly, but there are red labels that say used circumferentially around the device, becomes its own little sharps container. And at this point, you can simply dispose of that device. And the other thing that's really useful there is it'll actually stay held on to the injection site. So in emergency cases, if emergency responders arrive on scene, they can see that an injection has happened, and they can actually see what dose was delivered, which is really helpful for the emergency responders, especially if a patient is incapacitated. But somewhere along the line, we realized this is not just a better EpiPen. This is a significantly improved patient experience through the innovation of a delivery system, which is widely applicable to many drug products, not just epinephrine, even though that's where we started. And one of the ways that we've shown that already is we've actually worked with the National Institute on Drug Abuse, which is one of the institutes at the NIH, to pair naloxone with this device. And so the version I actually showed you is a naloxone auto-injector for the emergency treatment of an opioid overdose, which is unfortunately a significantly large and growing market. It's the #1 killer for my age group. And so it's a great way in which we're already demonstrating that this is a platform device that is going to be extremely easy for us to take that device and pair many additional drug products. And so some of those products that we think about are, for example, the naloxone and epinephrine that I already mentioned, but also routine injections outside of emergency, like the booming GLP-1 obesity market, the vaccination market, where your standard vaccine today, you have to go into retail pharmacy, and the drug product, the patient, and a trained healthcare provider all have to meet at a single physical location, we can remove all of those barriers and send a device pre-filled with a even standard flu vaccine directly to your door, where you could self-administer in the comfort of your own home. IVF therapy, which is currently really difficult therapy for self-administration. And really, we continue to always boil this down to making the administration process as easy as pushing a button. Running you through the quick numbers, the injectable market in general is already a $600 billion market. With the boom in the obesity drugs, the obesity drugs alone are looking to add another $100 billion to this large and growing market. First 3 years on the market, we expect it starting in 2027. And by the third year on the market, we're forecasting over 400 million in revenue. I mentioned working with the National Institute on Drug Abuse. We received a phase 1 award from the NIH. We received a follow-on administrative supplement to participate in their I-Corps program, which we've just completed. And then we actually just, as of this morning, received a follow-on administrative supplement for another about $100,000 to continue to expand the scope of our phase 1 award as we look forward to follow-on phase 2 funding. In terms of usability, if you look at any usability of existing, whether it's an auto-injector or nasal spray that's out there today, the numbers, as I mentioned, are really quite staggering. We already showed with a recent usability study that 100% of individuals will actually attempt to perform an injection, and 100% of individuals can perform the injection correctly the first time. And we did that with a lay population, meaning they had no injection experience at all, had never seen our device before, and were able to just pick it up and use it correctly. And that's a testament to how we've boiled the process down to as easy as pushing a button. In terms of pricing, we always think about better device, affordable price. So with our technology in the epinephrine space, for example, the EpiPen today is about $650 for a 2-pack. Our intention is to be less than $100 for a 2-pack. And if you have health coverage, that would essentially be a $0 out-of-pocket expense. We're currently not only developing the device itself, but also building out the manufacturing that's necessary for regulatory approval and subsequent commercialization. We have a 10,000 square foot facility that includes a 1,000 square foot ISO Class 8 clean room. We have no need for clinical trials. We've already surveyed close to 1,000 potential patients and end users. 93% of those folks wanted to switch to our device right away. 70% of prescribers wanted to switch to prescribing specifically our device. And we already have 21 fully issued utility patents here in the United States and internationally to protect the technology that we've developed. We're currently raising $10 million on a safe. We already have 7.7 million of that committed. The terms are 55 million cap, 20% discount. And if you're interested in participating, you can join the round via our WeFunder page, wefunder.com/pirouette. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Conor. Teddy, do you have a question for Conor here?
Yeah, for sure. Conor, that was great. Thank you so much for that. I wanted to dig in a little bit more on the timeline for FDA approval and what you think potential obstacles might be in terms of, like likelihood of not getting approved, funding issues, all of that type of stuff. I noticed you had in the slide that 0 clinical trials required. So just more context on that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the benefits of us starting with generic drug opportunities. We obviously are innovating on the device side, but it's a combo product. So it's the device plus the drug, which eliminating the drug development side and sticking with a drug that's already known and proven to be safe and effective helps reduce the risk in terms of a regulatory approval risk. And ultimately, in terms of that timeline and regulatory approval, the decision-making strategy that I use kind of on a constant basis is always in terms of the ability to reduce risk as we move forward from today to regulatory approval and initial commercialization. That means being really efficient in capital expenditure. That means being highly focused in a very singular area, right? So that means focusing on our flagship products first and then thinking about future generations of the device or future drug product pairings after that or subsequent to that, which also de-risks those. And then ultimately reducing the timeline as much as possible, because again, that's less capital that we have to spend in order to get to regulatory approval. And so kind of the big major milestones that are upcoming for us, obviously, as you saw today, it's a very advanced product. So the next phases for us are really our registration batches, design validation, and then that design validation is basically where we collect the data that we've already agreed upon with the FDA that we need to collect, and then we put that together in a package for submission to the FDA, and then we submit that. And as I mentioned, we've already had multiple pre-submission meetings with the FDA, which has been nice from a de-risking standpoint as well, to confirm our regulatory pathway strategy and the testing protocols and the full testing regimen that we need to perform in order to go after those approvals.
Great, makes sense. Thank you, Conor.
Terrific.
Absolutely.
Thank you to all of our founders here today. We are going to open up a poll to get our winner from the crowd of who you're most interested in investing and think was the best pitch of the day. So we'll open that poll up here right now and give you a few minutes to respond to it and crown our winner over here. I also wanted to just note quickly that we have dropped all the links to all of the reports for each one of these companies into the chat. So if you want to check them out for free today, that's part of our Edge subscription. You can access all of the research reports on every one of these companies, which I think is really cool, and get more insights on them. Going to take a couple minutes here while we collect data on the poll. Dutch, would love to hear your thoughts on some of these pitches and some of the things you think about when considering, making some of these startup investments.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Teddy hit a very serious topic, right, in regulatory, right, possibilities, right? And in any business that's still facing regulatory possibilities can be a challenge, But what I would also say is I kind of like how Pirouette has kind of limited some of those regulatory challenges. And that's kind of exciting to me that like they're not having to worry about the drug challenge, right? And so they're looking at a deliverability device. And it did look like a pretty cool advanced product. What I loved about Overplay is they have users, right? When you have 200,000 users, right? It can be pretty exciting, because that's their whole business model. And she'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but they get to 20 million users. The advertising play, the marketing play, there's the revenue generation models, right? When she starts putting up some of the YouTube and Instagram, and so I'm looking at their profit models, and that's the models, I believe they're going down that path, right? And so each of them, are very interesting. I think with the dentist, right? With the wisdom teeth, I think there is, very much consumer education, right, is a big part of it, because I am actually an adult, right? And I didn't have my, I'm actually an adult. That's a miraculous statement by me. It's a great observation. So, at 24, 25, though, I got my wisdom teeth out, right? And a lot of adults don't get the wisdom teeth out until they're adults. And I think adults don't want pain. Like if I go to a dentist, like I don't want pain, right? And so, I think there's a part of that that's pretty cool. For me, I'm always looking at, what are these different buckets? And so when I look at these different founder stories, like I look at, with the dentist, with TriAgenics, I don't want to say it correctly.
TriAgenics.
Yeah, TriAgenics, right? I mean, obviously he's lived, breathed, and died, dentistry his whole life, right? And that may be a little bit different than our other two founders, right? And so everybody has different backgrounds and experiences. And so there's a founder's DNA checklist, right, within Money Shackles that I go through because that's, the core. But also you can see the amazing job Overplay's done with her, investment banker background and her other background with Sesame Street and other things, right, where she's making plays that not a lot of capital raisers are making, right? She's putting the credibility stack of her business on a high level. She's putting the network, right? How often in our life have we heard, right? It's your network, not your net worth, right? Is more important, right? Sometimes it's not, how much it's who right? And she's putting that stack behind her business in some creative, fun, different ways. And so as I look at each of them, they have some really amazing traits. I started looking at what's the 10x, 100x value, right? And then I go back to like, what's the risks? When I look at, do I have regulatory, obstacles? I go to a little bit higher risk, right? Do I have existing customers? No, higher risk. Yes, lower risk, right? And so within Money Shackles and actually within the workbook, we have checklists, right, that people can go through with each company and kind of say yes, because also you see Mark Cuban, right, with Overplay, you can get all kinds of excited, right? That's, Mark Cuban believes in it, and I believe in it. Well, Mark Cuban also invests in, 1,000 more businesses than any of us will invest in our life. And that's not to overstack that Overplay got Mark Cuban on board, because that's an incredible accomplishment, but you got to put everything into its proper category with investing in, because, when I looked at, the 10 businesses I have invested into right in the last year, like I'm putting everything against the monitor, like every aspect of them. And because there's companies I was excited to invest into, but then when I put, the checklist into place, I'm like, not so much, right? But there's some exciting stuff here. I think there's some real businesses. I think there's real products, right? I think there's a track record. I'd have, questions myself, of course, before I made an investment with them, but I'm pretty pumped up. Actually, probably, I probably would make an investment with them without asking more questions. But yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you, Dutch. And Teddy, Leah, any other key thoughts before we announce our winner here?
Yeah, I can just build a bit on kind of the FDA approval timeline. When you're looking at early stage med tech, early stage pharma, you really want a founder that knows the exact timeline, how much it's going to cost, the potential risks that could come up, and show that they've thought about those scenarios and how to tackle them. And I think with a lot of early stage pharma that you see in equity crowdfunding markets, it's not always very clear that they've thought that out. And as you saw with the two founders today, the two medtech founders today, they have it very much thought out. And I think that's just a really important part of the due diligence process as a retail investor in equity crowdfunding, is to really, ask the founders in the Q&A if they've thought about all these different scenarios. And I think, yeah, just continuing to monitor that is very important when looking at companies like this.
Awesome. Well, this has been a terrific event as always, and just wonderful pitches all around. Excited to announce our winner here, which is Pirouette Medical. Congratulations, with 47% of the vote. That's phenomenal, and we're proud investors at KingsCrowd Capital and Pirouette, proud investors at TriAgenics, still assessing Overplay. So these are the best of the best, the cream of the crop. At KingsCrowd, everything we do is aimed at trying to find the best investment opportunities for you across this sprawling landscape of investment opportunities. There's 600 or 700 investment opportunities available to you right now. These are 3 of the best ones that I think you can find out there, which is really, really cool. So we hope you've enjoyed the event. Congratulations to you, Conor. You could go check out all of these investment opportunities on KingsCrowd to get more investment research before deciding to invest. And hopefully this has really helped to inform your investment due diligence process. Please reach out to us with any feedback, and we look forward to seeing you in our Q2 demo day. Everyone have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining us.